Everybody's looking for a win at Talladega, and the closing laps, we have the big one.
Yeah, two things happening here. Just like you said, everybody's wide open. You've got two really powerful lanes pushing really hard, and then the 38 car gets in the mix. He comes around as a lap car, and the field has to navigate around him while trying to push really, really hard and stay committed to the lines that they're working with.
And you see the 38 right here. He's kind of about 10th, 11th in running order right now with the rest of the field, but everybody's trying to snake around him on the outside and keep the throttle down.
Yeah, that's right. We're about halfway down the backstretch right now, and these cars that have just passed him up towards the front of the field are going to start creating a big stack up that we're going to have to deal with.
Yeah, you see him nose to tail, creates Brad Keselowski to have a huge run on Austin Cindric, gets him at a vulnerable spot entering turn 3, and it sends Austin around, and then Calamity Corner right there in turn 3.
Let's take a look at another view of what we were just describing. So this is the front view of what we were just looking at with the 38 cars. The field tries to navigate around him.
Yeah, and what you can see is from the view we saw earlier, from the side view, it looked like everybody was orderly, and they were just, looked like pace laps. But what you can see from this view is the inside line is very snaked around to get around the 38, and the outside lane, it looks like chaos. And they're just, wherever there could be, there's a car. And that created, some people slowing their speed and some people gaining speed based on the draft they're getting from the car behind them. And that creates that stack up. People get together, and then when you have multiple cars touching nose to tail, usually someone comes out on the bad end of the stick.
Yeah, the problem here is the guys that are leading the lines, they're able to figure out kind of what's happening in 1-2 cars behind them. But when you have two lanes that are so compressed front to back, and then there's a lap car impacting how the lanes can be shaped 4 or 5 rows back, now the guys in the front can't really tell where they need to place their cars to make the lanes stay straight. So the fact that the lanes weren't straight ultimately ends up being what makes the stack up cause the crash.
So that's what caused the big wreck. Now let's look at the aftermath.
So this was rough for a whole lot of guys. We saw a lot of guys stuck, multiple cars unable to move. This really was a difficult situation for NASCAR and the teams to try to navigate. There were so many cars that were heavily damaged. Just assessing what was going on was a difficult challenge for everyone.
Yeah, there was something 23 plus cars parked back there in turn 3, all of them with flat tires. And I think one thing that is tough for the drivers and something the fans probably don't realize is when they slide and all 4 tires go flat, they're actually riding on 5 aluminum pucks under the race car. And these aluminum pucks are about twice the size of a hockey puck. And when the car is laying on those, it's like on ice. They can't steer, they can't brake, and they can't throttle up. So when you're sliding sideways and you see a car wrecked in front of you, you have nothing to do but hit it.
This created a lot of chaos for NASCAR and the teams to handle, being that number of cars all at once, and then dealing with the problem of not being able to drive them back and deciding which ones were the best ones to drive back and which ones weren't. Ultimately, I think it was a challenge to just kind of weed through and establish a priority for who to get back to pit road.
Yeah, I think in a situation like this, we saw in Kansas a DVP possible issue. We saw in Talladega a DVP possible issue. And the DVP was brought about to try to keep wrecked race cars off of the racetrack, affecting the race with more cautions, costing the team owners money, bringing crash repair stuff to the racetrack. And although that probably hasn't reared its ugly head as much as in the last couple of weeks, these are 2 completely different circumstances that NASCAR is trying to work through.
I mean, just trying to get the race going back as quickly as possible. There's obviously somewhat of a limit of amount of time that can be spent on bringing everybody's cars back around, and NASCAR had their hands full trying to work through this one, and I think they did the best job they felt they could in the moment.